Hi, I'm Ken Allard, the CEO of L2, and I'm here today with Dennis Crowley, founder and CEO of Foursquare. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So we're kicking off a conversation with CMOs, CEOs, and CFOs of tech startups and big consumer brands to try to educate our clients about what's going on in the industry. And I thought I'd ask you some questions about Foursquare. So you guys came on the scene in 2010?
2009.
2009, right?
Yeah.
And we're the talk of the town. So
Yeah.
what's different in the whole social media landscape now from when you first entered?
Well, I mean, like everything's different in social media, and I think that's one of like the interesting and really challenging parts of social media is that there's a new darling every 12 to 18 months or so, and I think the challenge is like once the hot thing moves from one thing to the next, like how do you continue to stay a part of people's lives, and how do you continue to grow the business? And that's something that we've been working to figure out over 6 years or so. I feel pretty fortunate at Foursquare that like we figured a lot of that stuff out. Like people are always searching for places to go. People are always looking to share with their friends. So we found a nice little model there. But I was actually just talking to our staff yesterday about like, hey, look at all the social media companies that have come and gone in the last 6 years, and how I feel it's like a real honor to still be around and competing with some of the biggest players, whether it's Google or Facebook or Apple or the Instagrams or the Snapchats or really anyone in that space.
So why do you think Foursquare is still a relevant platform? Why are you still relevant to the user community?
Well, I never really remember we have two apps now, right? So we have Foursquare and we have our Swarm app. And Foursquare, which is all about, city guides and finding places. It's social, but it's not like social media really. It's more, an alternative to Yelp, something that's more personalized or kind of like more indie focused, or Apple Maps or Google Maps. Like, what's the best way that we can help people find things? So I don't really have to compete with some of like we're not going head to head with Snapchat or Instagram in that space. Swarm, on the other hand, is definitely much more of a social app, and Swarm is actually really, really big for us outside of the US. I think markets where we got there first, and we see this in Latin America, in Brazil, and parts of Eastern Europe and Russia, Southeast Asia, and it's amazing, right? And now we have to figure out how do we monetize some of those audiences.
Yeah. So Dennis, when you think about how Foursquare started off with this check-in feature, and then suddenly there was no check-ins and Foursquare split into Foursquare and Swarm.
Yeah.
What's going on there? Because a lot of people like that ability.
Yeah, sure. So remember, like the point of Foursquare was never to build this awesome check-in app. The point of Foursquare was, to build this engine that could learn about like the places that people go to, so we could offer awesome services on top of that. And it just so happened that the check-in, like making people hit a button that says "I am here," was the only way to do that in 2009. We always position ourselves as a location technology company, and one of the big pieces of technology that we built is this ability just to understand where your phone happens to be, even if you're not running the app, even if you're not checking in. So if I go downstairs into the Starbucks, and even if my phone's in my back pocket, Foursquare can figure out, oh, you walked into a Starbucks, you've been here 7 minutes. This is the first time you've been to the Starbucks in 4 months. If I then go down to the Gap, we can do the same thing. Oh, you haven't been in this Gap in 6 months. You've walked in, you've walked out, you went to the Chipotle after. Like we're just really good at understanding the patterns of how devices move around. So that's why we ended up kind of splitting the app into two. Like now we have that ability, we can focus on making Foursquare the best discovery product imaginable. And what we did find in our research though is people still love checking in. Like they loved all the game elements. They loved competing for mayorships and earning points and unlocking stickers. And so that's why we developed a separate app called Swarm that is just about doing that. And
Why separate them though? What's the benefit?
Well, here's the thing: is that when we were somewhere around like 30 million users or 40 million users, I think our version of the Foursquare story, like my version of the story, check in everywhere you go and the thing gets smarter and it tells you where to go next. Like that started getting lost on people. And so we would meet, we would interview our users, and we'd meet people that are like, listen, I love Foursquare for helping me find where to go, but I don't check in and I feel like I'm doing it wrong, so I stopped using it. I'm like, no, that's totally fine. And then we'd meet people that I use Foursquare to check in all the time. I didn't even know you could search for places. And so we had these two use cases that, it's kind of polarizing. Either, using it this way or using it this way. And we had users that were confused and feeling like they were doing it wrong. And so that was a strong signal to us that if we simplify, if we break them into two pieces, each one can have a very clear story. We can start putting really strong marketing and branding messages behind each of those stories. And that is a much easier way to really simplify the ecosystem for us, as well as to really, I think, make each product simpler and stronger because of that.
So if you could rewind the clock over the last 5 years, 6 years, what's the one thing you wish you could have done differently?
One thing I wish we did differently. When we were growing really, really quickly, 2009, 2010, 2011, it was because there was a lot fewer social things on the scene. There was a lot fewer things to distract people, I think. And we were just kind of growing organically. And I don't think we really threw fuel on the fire in the sense by sending lots of emails or trying to run really targeted campaigns. And we did little experiments, but we didn't really heavily invest in it. It wasn't until really about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, that we really, really, really started to get serious in terms of let's put engineering resources and let's really hire people with the specific marketing skill set to really go and to try to win some of this audience. And I think if we had done that a little sooner, we would have made things easier for us. But the good news is the things that we're doing now are working pretty well. We're pretty excited about that.
Okay, predictions. So what's going to happen in the next 2 years that no one's expecting?
That no one is expecting. I think that the things that are kind of playing in this Siri and Google Now space are going to get a lot more interesting. I mean, that's the big bet that we've made with Foursquare these last couple years, is that people are going to move from this world of I'm just always on my phone and I'm always asking my phone questions to your phone is in your pocket and the sensors are just always looking around, and then maybe your watch buzzes and it says, "Hey Dennis, go around the corner. This place is awesome." And the software is going to learn about the things that you like and the things that you don't like and the people that you hang out with and the people that you don't and what you like to do and what you're not. And it'll be able to contextually serve up things that are interesting.
So is voice a new interface, or is it just passive actions that are new?
I don't think it really matters. I think there's a sexy story and is it voice? Is it whispering in your ear? Are you talking to Siri? But the key thing is that the devices are just going to understand changes in context. Mm-hmm. Am I in a new area, a familiar area? Have I ever been here before? Is there something I need to know about? Is someone around the corner? And then once the software can figure out, hey, this is an interesting moment that we can tell you something, it can either talk to you, it can either ping your watch, it can either ping your wrist. It can be a variety of those things. But I think the big change is that the software will start talking to you and be like, "Hey, Dennis, sorry to interrupt you, but I've got something I wanted to tell you," as opposed in a really intelligent way, as opposed to I always have to go in my phone and try to tease that data out.
I buy it, and I think that you have this great audience of all these amazing B2C CMOs watching you right now.
Yeah.
What are the ways that they can take advantage of your platform?
Yeah, there's a bunch of advertising products that we've developed that I think are still a little bit under the radar. One of which is, the obvious ones, the ability to advertise in either Foursquare or Swarm, and to be able to show a message to someone that, hey, just checked in at the gym, or just searched for an Italian restaurant, or just showed up at a Walmart, for example. We can do pretty interesting things with our ability to understand, hey, where are phones? Did this phone just walk into a bar, a fancy restaurant, a Chili's, or a big box retailer? And so being able to serve up messages at that time is really interesting. Another thing that we've been spending a lot of time on is an advertising platform called Pinpoint, which allows advertisers to buy media on a wide variety of different sites that are basically targeted based on Foursquare data. So you can say, well, I need to find someone that went to a car dealership in the airport in the last 2 weeks or so, and I want to show them this message, but I want to show it on in this weather app or on this sports website. And we're helping a lot of advertisers figure out the best way to find very specific geographic targeting. Show me anyone that's been to an airport twice this week. Show me anyone that's been to 2 or more car dealerships in the last month. Show me anyone that's specifically been to an Audi dealership. And I think that stuff has been has been really, really interesting for us to build, and then to see the advertiser demand for it in the community too.
Dennis, thanks a lot for coming today. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on your show.
All right, see you at dinner tonight.